you love raspberries and you love cheesecake and you like things that are a little high maintenance. I'm sorry, this bake's a little high maintenance. This raspberry, gluten-free raspberry cheesecake is just for you. It's packed with raspberry in 3 different ways. We've got it frozen raspberries, fresh raspberries, and powdered raspberries because I wanted to jazz up the flavor so it's not just a raspberry looking cheesecake, but it really tastes like that. And also there's some ruby chocolate, which adds a little element of berries without berries. It's so weird, but ruby chocolate is delicious. Hi, I'm Carolyn, and this is the Chili Bakes Gluten-Free Podcast. Thanks so much for joining me on my YouTube channel and podcast. And we're baking this amazing cheesecake today. It is rich and flavorful, delicious. It takes a while to make, but it's well worth the journey. It's one of those treaty bakes that sometimes you feel like you need to do. So I'm super excited to have you bake a cheesecake with me. Let's talk ingredients and equipment. So for equipment, you need a springform pan. I guess you don't have to have one, but it's really nice to be able to take your cheesecake out. This one's small. This is 6-inch. I used 9 1/4 inch for the bake today. It's really nice to have. Also foil, because sometimes the butter in the crust leaks out and then it makes your oven smoke. Not fun. So put foil around the outside. So you need foil, a springform pan. An electric mixer is helpful. What else do you need? You need, as far as ingredients, you need fresh raspberries. We're going to garnish with fresh raspberries. Frozen raspberries, because we're making a sauce with frozen raspberries, and powdered raspberries. So we put raspberry powder in them. So that's kind of cool. And what else? I used ruby chocolate in it. You could also use white chocolate. Ruby chocolate kind of has a berry taste anyway, which is why I used ruby chocolate. I had to get it on the internet because it's a little hard. It's a little hard to find places, but you can definitely find it on the internet. And you need 3 ounces, which ends up being about a generous ½ cup. And that's about it. Starting with the crust, we need 1.5 cups, you know, approximately 1.5 cups. It doesn't have to be perfect. Of gluten-free graham cracker crumbs, and then we're going to have a few other things. I broke my Cuisinart. It was so old that it fell apart. Literally, it just fell apart. So I'm going to use the old-fashioned bag and rolling pin method to crush my graham crackers, which is what I used to do anyway. So we're going to measure roughly 1.5 cups. That was Indy groaning in the background, of course. Okay, so I measured a little bit more than 1.5 cups in here. This is a 2-cup measure because when I crush it, it's going to be a little less. In fact, I'm going to add 1 more piece just to make sure I have enough. Take the air out, and we're just going to roll them into crumbs. All right, I'm going to keep rolling until this is fine crumbs, and then I'll get back to it. That's pretty good. And they're nice and fine. If they're bigger chunks, no worries. We're going to dump this right into our bowl, a medium-sized mixing bowl. And then we get 1/4 cup granulated sugar and 1/4 cup of blanched almond flour. You don't have to use the almond flour, but I like the extra taste and texture from nuts, even if it's really subtle. If you can't use almond, you could use any other nut as a flour or ground, or you could use the rest as graham crackers. You know, you could use 1/4 cup extra graham cracker crumbs. And then here's 6 tablespoons of melted butter. There we go. What you want is wet sand to be like. Whoops. There we go. All right. And then we're pressing this into our springform pan. This is 9 1/4 inch. And you want to just even it out, and then we'll press it down. Get that off. Now this will stick to your hands pretty well, which you don't want because it makes it hard to stick to the pan. You could use a piece of parchment or plastic. You could actually use the plastic bag you just used and just press it in. All right, I'm going to finish pressing this in and show you at the end. Okay, this doesn't look pretty, but it sure works well. So I pressed with my fingers the crust kind of where I wanted it, up on the sides a little bit. I don't know if you can see that. Not really, because it's kind of dark. It's not totally even. I don't really care about that. You can make the edges even if you want. It's not going to go all the way up, but I don't really want that much crust on my cheesecake. I just want some. So then I used a plastic bag to press it down with my fingers. And then if you have a nice measuring cup or something with a really flat bottom, you can really press it in and press it into the rounded sides. This one's rounded. So get a nice press in there. And then there you go. And we're just going to put this in the refrigerator or even the freezer until the cheesecake filling is ready. Crust is chilling. And we're going to cook, this is 12 ounces, about 12 ounces of frozen raspberries. We're going to heat them up till they get soft and they get juicy. And we're going to use them for inside the cheesecake and also for a sauce. And I'm going to heat this up. Okay, so just about 5 minutes of cooking. I had it on medium high and I just stirred frozen raspberries. They're now really soft, but oh my gosh, look at that beautiful color. So what I'm going to do is, I don't want all the seeds in the filling. So what we're going to do is strain it into a smaller pan here. This may get messy. Oh goodness, I feel like this is going to go poorly. Hang on a second. Oh well, we'll see, right? Holy smokes. This might not be the right strainer either. That's okay. We're making it work, right? That's what happens when you cook, is you make it work. Okay. Oops. All right, we'll just press it through here. And we want all this raspberry goodness, but without all the seeds. And it just takes a couple minutes. Oh my gosh, that's so pretty. Yeah, look at that. All right, we're gonna keep pressing this through until it's basically seeds, because we want all the juice we can get here. All right, looks pretty good. And now remember, there's some on the other side too, so if you use your spatula and scrape the puree off the other side, you're gonna get a lot more. There we go. Look at all that. Okay, so we're gonna save 1/3 a cup of this to put inside the cheesecake, and the rest of it we're gonna make like a drizzle sauce. Here's the cheesecake filling. We have a large, high-sided mixing bowl, and your cream cheese, as I mentioned before, needs to be room temperature. We're gonna beat that smooth first, because we just don't want any chunks in here. And it's cold in my house, so we'll see how well this goes. I might have to mix it off camera a little bit. Okay, clearly it's too cold in my house, even though this is sat out for hours. So I'm gonna mix it a little bit off camera so you don't have to wait for all that. Okay, so I got out the big lumps. We wanna make sure there aren't any lumps, because once it gets more moisture in here, like once you add the eggs, it's a lot harder to get the lumps out. So we're gonna add the sugar. This is 1 cup of sugar, and that was a cup and did I say it was 1.5 pounds of cream cheese, full fat? And we're gonna do the sugar. Okay, let's do a little scraping here. You're gonna have to scrape a few times for sure, just to make sure it's smooth. All right, we have 3 large eggs going in. Okay, definitely keep scraping because there's thick bits around the edges. Look at that, oh my gosh, yum. Okay, now, we're going to start to add the flavor. So here's the 1/3 cup of raspberry puree that we cooked earlier and strained. Get every bit of that stuff. Okay. Then we're going to add 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, because lemon really just lightens up everything. Okay. Big scrape here. Now we have a nice light pink color, but we're going to make this much more bright. Haha, I'm very excited about this. Okay, in goes the raspberry powder. Whoa, so pretty. So pretty. Oh my gosh, so pretty. Okay, so that was half the raspberry powder. And we're gonna add the other half. 1, 2. Gosh, I made a mess, didn't I? Okay. Alrighty. Okay. Look at that beautiful raspberry color. Oh my gosh. Okay, and the last thing we're adding is the ruby chocolate, chopped ruby chocolate. So we're just gonna stir that in. I'm making a huge mess here. Oh my gosh, look at this. So beautiful. All right, and there's the filling. In it goes. Look at that. Oh my gosh, so delicious. Woo. All right, we're just gonna spread it out. And in it goes. I'm going to test it about 45 minutes and see how it tests, because you just never know. So better to undercook and check. Wait, what am I trying to say here? For cheesecakes, better to underbake and put it back in, or test it too early, than it is to overbake it, because then you can't fix it. You need to make sure, in case I didn't mention it, it's super important. If you have a springform pan, sometimes they leak, and when the crust gets hot, the butter will seep out and burn in the oven. That's not fun to have smoke coming out of your oven. This is a long bake. So what I like to do is cover the springform pan with foil and then set it on a baking tray just in case. That way any leaks are contained. Yeah, it's way better than running to open every window in the house because the fire alarm's going off. If you love baking as much as I do, well, I don't know if anybody loves baking that much. Gluten-free baking, you should join me. I'm here twice a month on YouTube, and I'm here more often on my shorts and on Instagram and TikTok, but I'm always going to be baking. So I love it when you come with me in the kitchen, and maybe you'll learn something new. Maybe you'll get a recipe you want to try or some tips and tricks. So I'd love it if you rate, review, subscribe. It's always nice to have you with me here. It makes what I'm doing feel meaningful. I want to help people, so hopefully that's what I'm doing, and inspire you to try baking. It's so much easier than some people think it is, and it's so much more rewarding because you know what you're getting, you know what's in your food, you get to make what you want and eat it when you want, which is why I started baking to begin with, because as a kid I didn't get what I wanted, and so I learned how to make cookies because I wanted to eat them more often than my mom wanted to make them. So give yourself the gift of being able to bake gluten-free, and come join me twice a month and check out my podcast bakes and YouTube. Same thing, podcast, YouTube. I'm just grateful to have you here. Thank you for hanging out with me in the kitchen. Always so thankful to have you. It makes my journey that much more important, enjoyable, and I feel like what I'm doing is important. So thanks so much. All right, I just took this out of the oven. It took about 50 minutes. See how there's a jiggle there? And it is still a little damp. I'm going to test it because I'm going to cover it with sour cream anyway. But it's cooked. It's just a little bit more liquid. It's not the same consistency as the batter, which is what you want. It's set around the sides, but it's still got a jiggle. So we're going to let that cool at room temperature for about an hour, and then 6 hours or overnight. I know it's a long wait, but it's worth it. Let's make the topping. So we're using 8 ounces of, full fat cream cheese. No, sour cream. And I made a mess. Got a 1/4 cup of powdered sugar. Oh my gosh, I'm doing this completely wrong. And we're gonna whisk this. Somehow I only had a clean, tiny whisk, so this is just, all right, we just wanna get the lumps out. Let's make sure it's lump-free, pretty lump-free. There we go. All right, this is not my prettiest bake or my best baking day, but we're just gonna go with it because sometimes that's what happens. So let's spread the sour cream topping on top. I unmolded the cheesecake from the springform pan and just put it on just a cutting board or whatever, a platter. And then we're just going to try to spread this nicely. You don't have to go over the edge. I don't really want it dripping over the edge. And then we're going to get the fruit. Hang on. Whoops. Cream over here. Kind of feel like I'm making it worse. All right. And then I have fresh raspberries. You could put chopped white chocolate, pink chocolate, whatever. That's not even in the center. But I think if you put raspberries in the middle, hard to go wrong here. And I'll just put a lot, because who doesn't want a lot of cheesecake, right? And then we could just stick some mint. You could do chocolate leaves too, but I don't have it in me to do chocolate leaves. Okay, this isn't my best bake. In appearance, it's actually pretty, but it's not amazing. So this is how I'm going to do it today, because really it's all that I have bandwidth for, but looks pretty nice, and I'm sure it's going to be amazing. So let's get to tasting this. Okay, my slice did not come out all that pretty. I was just going to show you, I moved the raspberry to the back, because when you put them in the center of the cheesecake, it ends up being on the end of the slice, which doesn't look that good. And then remember how we had all that raspberry syrup? The puree, we could do a little bit on the plate. Fancy. It's like very tart raspberry. You could sweeten it, but I just didn't feel like sweetening it. Okay, maybe that wasn't the best idea, but I'll bet it'll taste good. Right, here's the cheesecake. It's, there's a bite taken out of it because it's me and I couldn't wait. But it's a super rich cheesecake. It's really dense. The sour cream topping is slightly tart, a little sweet, a little tart. If you choose to use the raspberry puree, it's like pure tart raspberry, which I think is really good with the rich, creamy cheesecake and the graham cracker crust. It's so good. I think I might have overbaked the cheesecake slightly, but it's still really moist and creamy. I am not gonna lie, this bake is kind of a pain in the ass. It kind of is. It's a special dessert, but I really needed a special dessert. I had a really hard week. I lost my baby girl, Emma, this week. And sometimes baking is what I do to make myself feel a little better. And this is a huge treaty bake, and I still miss her lots. obviously. But this is delicious, and it's, you know, it's kind of an epic bake. So if you want to do something different, special, that's kind of a pain in the ass, this is what you might want to make. And it's a very rich cheesecake. It's moist and dense and very raspberry. So I hope you decide to try this bake. It was, I'll say it was fun to make. It was a little bit of a pain in the ass, but it's very delicious. And, you know, I haven't had a raspberry cheesecake that tastes like this. So I'm pleased with it. I'll be foisting it on my family so I don't eat the whole thing, which is good. Thanks again so much for joining me in the kitchen. I'm really grateful. This having you here with me really makes this everything better, and I hope I'm helping people, and you guys are learning to make things maybe you haven't wanted to try, and eating new and delicious things that just happen to be gluten-free. So the next podcast bake is April 17th. We're making matcha lemon scones. It's so good. Matcha is a little bit like earthy tasting, and it's so good with bright and sweet tart lemon with scones. So it's an easy bake, it's delicious, and I can't wait for you to join me then. I hope you come back. I'm always just honored to have you here with me. So thanks so much for hanging out with me. In the meantime, bake something gluten-free and delicious. Bye-bye. I'm just gonna keep eating this. Oh my gosh, this is so rich. This is probably shouldn't be my breakfast. I should get a cup of coffee and finish this. So good.